You know, I don't have a blindfold, but if I were in Bird Box, all I have to do would be, I can't see a thing. Hey, everybody. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm giving you some content to get you through those days because I know you're not doing nothing while you're at home. I want to talk about Bird Box. Now, Bird Box is this phenomenon Netflix just dropped on everybody, and social media just kind of lost its mind. Now, I don't I'm not gonna be naive to think like all social media, viral phenomena is just like organic, But either way, I enjoyed the movie. The Bird Box star Sandra Bullock and geez Louise, what's this guy's name? He's from Moonlight. He's a very, very handsome guy. Trevante Rhodes. Okay. And it's like this end of the world apocalyptic type of thing. And there are these monsters, these entities, these beings or manifestations that start off in Russia and it's causing mass suicides. So people, if they look into these things, they see their deepest, darkest fears, they see their past loved ones, and it makes them want to, I guess, join them in the afterlife. So I guess the criticism is that there are a lot of movies like this, like The Mist or, other unknown type of things. But this isn't really like a recap. I just wanted to kind of dissect the meaning because I kind of felt like Bird Box leaves you hanging. Okay, so what's the significance of the Bird Box? The birds are, they can sense when this entity is near and they start chirping and going crazy, and it gives you kind of heads up to get your blindfold on, get in the house, whatever. And Sandra Bullock, she finds these birds when they go on like this food run, and they kind of stay with them throughout the entirety of the movie. And when she is forced to leave her home, she keeps them in a box, like a shoe box, and they alert her when the beings are near. So the movie was it kept my attention. It was very engaging, and that's because it's well shot and it's well acted. And Sandra Bullock is a great actress, and I noticed that in her performance in Gravity, because if you remember Gravity, she's this astronaut like hurling through space alone, and to make a movie where you're just the center character and there's nothing but oblivion space around you, you have to have an engaging quality, and I do believe she has that as an actress. I just thought, like, okay, you got Trevante, he's fine. You got Sandra Bullock, she's a great actress, and you have all this action that's going, and the pacing and all that is great. But the end of the movie, I just kept thinking, like, well, what the freak were the things, the beings, the shadows, So, the beginning of the movie, Sandra Bullock is a painter. She's an artist, and it's not lost on me like a lot of these movies, like The Person, or when you're dealing with like when society is going crazy and downhill, it's always like the artist or the recluse or the oddball, non-conformative person who seems to be just a little disconnected from society, and that way they're not the first to be killed or whatever. I don't know. The first to I can't think of my words today, but they're not the first to die. So yeah, she's this artist and she's painting this picture of all these people, and there's this black background, and her sister, she comes in to bring her food, and she's just like, oh, this is craziness happening in Russia with these, and they still don't know what it is. They're just like mass suicides, and they don't know what's causing it. And so, of course, Mallory, who's Sandra Bullock's character, she doesn't know anything that's going on because she's just been holed up in her studio painting. And all of her paintings, they seem like these people who are isolated. And her sister asks her about the painting that she's currently painting, and she's just like, it kind of looks like the Lord Supper almost, but it has a black background, and people are kind of in their own little bubbles, and it's kind of like um I won't. It's kind of a depiction of society, how everyone has a smartphone, and although you may be at Christmas dinner or a family dinner or a gathering, everyone, is still disconnected. So it's that's one of the themes I would say would be in this movie, is like disconnection, and maybe why Sandra Bullock, when she's in the car with her sister, and her sister sees this entity and becomes suicidal, Sandra looks, but she doesn't see the thing, and it's really because she's kind of disconnected. So initially, in that first scene with her sister, we learn a few things about her. They had a terrible childhood. They're not connected to their mother or their father. Mallory, I'm going to call her character's name. Mallory is pregnant. The father is MIA. And the only real connection, human connection, that Mallory, has is to her sister. She's not even connected to the baby growing inside of her. And we kind of get note of this when she's, her sister and the doctor, they go to a doctor's appointment after this scene. They're just like, look, you can pretend it's not happening, but you're having a baby. And then the doctor gives her alternative options because she knows, she kind of senses that she doesn't, have any type of connection with this child. So the action, it gets you right after that scene. Like in the hospital, they see this lady hitting her head against the flipping, the window. She's attempting to kill herself because she's seen the entities. They leave the hospital, and it's just like pandemonium. Like cars are crashing everywhere, and they're trying to make it home. And then her sister's, while she's driving, sees the entity. She attempts to crash. Mallory falls, climbs out of the car, and she's trying to run with her big pregnant belly, and people are knocking her over. And so this lady who's going into the house with her husband sees her, and she comes to help her. In the midst of her helping her, she sees the entities and becomes suicidal. And then enters Trevante Rhodes. So Trevante Rhodes is the type of man that you want to save you in an apocalypse, and if you're gonna be stuck in a house for the end of time, he's not a bad guy to have with you, right? And this is so not lost in the movie, because every shot of him, he's just like muscles bulging, and he's all concerned, over Mallory and her pregnant belly, and like, I'm just like, okay, cinematography, this is the making of a hero. It's kind of like Will Smith and I think it was Bad Boys, and he's like, or was it Independence Day? It's one of his first movies, and the director tells him, like, this shot with him running down like the freeway, and he has that white robe on, and no, it was Enemy of the State, and his muscles are bulging, and basically the director tells him, okay, this is the moment you become like a movie star. So I kind of got that sense of how they were shooting Trevante. It was just like, okay, this is the making of a cinematic sex symbol. That's just my thoughts. It could all be in my head, but that's what I thought. So he ends up picking her up, trying to take her, taking her to the house. And so, we get a little cast of characters stuck in this house. So we have the owner of the house, his neighbor, Mallory, Trevante, whose name in the movie is Tom, and two younger kids. I may be missing someone, but if I am, drop it in the comments. So yeah, so we have these people, and then someone kind of figures out, Oh, we have Rel Howery of Lil Rel, comedian of Get Out. He was the hero in Get Out. You know, he's in there as well. And this is one of the um, like when you watch a movie like a fantasy, you kind of have to accept certain things to be true, although they are a little bit unrealistic. And the unrealistic part is like this guy will let all these people in his house. Like, I get it's the end of the world, people are going crazy. That's usually when people instinctually lock people out. And this whole movie has this thing about connection and connecting with your past, connecting with your future, connecting with your neighbors. And so he lets all these people in his house. So you know, and I couldn't tell if the house was originally Douglas's house or if it was the neighbor house who he was suing. But anywho, uh, all these people get in the house, they lock the doors, and no one else comes knocking on their doors. So you have, these people in there, and after maybe 24 hours, everything kind of seems settled because everyone's dead or whatever outside, or so they think. So the whole thing is they have to survive and they have to live. And there's like this idea of, and we kind of see this later on, is living just to survive worth it, or do you have to live with the idea of hope that there's something better? So I would say watch the movie. I don't want to give away too many details because then you won't watch the movie. And I do think it's a worthwhile watch. I did watch it twice just because there were some things I still had questions on and I caught on the second go around. And there are a lot of crazy, funny memes, on social media. And if you really want to get those cultural references, I suggest you watch it. However, yeah, it was just kind of, Tom ends up being like, the love interest of Mallory's character. And she kind of makes a reference to her age or whatever. But Sandra Bullock, not talking about her character, she looks great. So, I don't think that would have been such a big issue like in real life if you only were given the choices he had in the house. But yeah, so what did you think of Bird Box? I will say I don't think they did a good job of fleshing out like what the actual entities were, and maybe they want the viewer to be introspective to see like what would that be, and how to survive, you may have to connect in an unusual way. I'll leave it at that. So that's my take on Bird Box. Let me know what you think. I'll talk to you later.